We're almost 25% through the 2026 NBA season, and we're starting to get a decent sample size of what some of these teams, players, and storylines are going to look this year. So for today's video, I wanted to give you guys my biggest NBA takeaways so far throughout the 2026 NBA season. So my biggest takeaway in the Eastern Conference so far, it has to be the Detroit Pistons and their amazing start. Having a 15-2 record before their NBA Cup game Wednesday night against the Boston Celtics, they're at the top of the Eastern Conference. They are one of the best defensive teams in the NBA, all while being a top 10 offensive team in the league as well. We know that they have their franchise superstar in Cade Cunningham, who is looking the part of somebody that could be an all NBA guy once again and just elevate the Detroit Pistons this year. And they've done all of this being a top 5 team in terms of net rating with a ton of injuries this year. Tobias Harris has missed almost 10 games for this team. Cade Cunningham has missed a handful of games. Same with Asar Thompson, Isaiah Stewart, Caris LeVert, and Jaden Ivey, who was hurt before the season even started. And guys like Dennis Jenkins have stepped up for this team. Jenkins has been one of the core storylines this year, averaging around 11 points and 4 assists. Somebody that played at the University of Pacific, then he went to JUCO college, then Iona under Rick Pitino, followed him to St. John's, two-way with Detroit last year, and has really stepped up as a nice bench scoring guard for the Detroit Pistons this year. And then you got to talk about the emergence of Jalen Duren this year, who's looked like one of the better young big men in the NBA. If you remember, he was the youngest player from that 2022 draft class, so he just turned 22 years old the other week, going into year number 4. He and the Pistons could not agree to a contract extension after his rookie deal going into this year, and he's earning himself a lot of money right now. Some people around the NBA think that he's going to get a max rookie extension. He is averaging 20 points, 11 rebounds this year, and has built up a really nice connection with Cade Cunningham in the Detroit half court, while also taking massive strides defensively. And it's crazy that 2 years ago, the Detroit Pistons were on a massive losing streak. They ended up having the worst record in the NBA in 2024. Now they're at the top of the Eastern Conference right now, and they're having kind of like a 2025 Cavs-like season this year, and could be the surprise 1 seed nobody really expected going into the year. Another surprising team at the top of the Eastern Conference, the Toronto Raptors. When you were talking about some of the bigger offseason additions, you're probably talking about Kevin Durant, Desmond Bane, Cooper Flagg to the Dallas Mavericks, but it probably didn't come to you that Brandon Ingram was technically a big addition for the Toronto Raptors. I know it went down at the deadline last year, but he didn't play a single game for the Raptors after getting traded, signed a 3-year extension with them, and has been the offensive piece they probably haven't had as a sole creator in the half court, maybe since Kawhi Leonard and DeMar DeRozan. Like, he's doing some things that maybe even Pascal Siakam couldn't have provided the Toronto Raptors back when he was playing up north. So far this year, Brandon Ingram is shooting around 49% from the field, averaging 21 points per game, but he's a maestro out of the pick and roll, something that we know is his bread and butter. He's shooting around 50% on mid-range jumpers this year, and when you're talking about some of the best mid-range shooters in the NBA, it's Kevin Durant and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Brandon Ingram is right there as well, and has definitely helped out Scotty Barnes' workload now that Scotty is playing like an all defensive caliber guy this year as a number 2. Emmanuel quickly is knocking down his threes. Mamu has maybe looked like one of the better underrated free agency pickups of the offseason. He is shooting 44% from 3, and the Raptors are objectively a better team when he's on the court because he could be a floor spacing 5 that is a physical player down low. RJ Barrett has had his moments this year. I do think they're like a piece away, maybe another 3rd option that could be also a good defender for this team to make a run towards the end of the season if they're realistic about maybe making the conference finals. But the Raptors this year are a top 10 offensive team and a top 10 defensive team as well. They're top 5 in net rating at the moment. I know their schedule has been kind of light to start off the year, so I'm really intrigued to see how it looks further along. Jamal Shed has stepped up as a defender. They have some flexibility if they wanted to make a trade. I wouldn't be totally shocked if it's Detroit and Toronto as the 1 and 2 seeds at the end of the year. It's still a long shot for that to happen, but both these teams have been playing incredibly hard so far. And also the 3rd seed in the Eastern Conference right now. I gotta give some love to the Miami Heat, a team that is not running any pick and rolls right now and basically just operating out of straight isolations. They are about 6 games above 500, all without Tower Hero just debuting this week. This is a top 10 team in terms of defensive rating and net rating, and they basically got Norman Powell for free. It cost them Kevin Love and Kyle Anderson, and they're getting somebody that is playing about 30 minutes a night, but is averaging 25 points per game. We're going to get to the Clippers later in this video. That is a team that is desperately missing Norman Powell as somebody that can just give you 25 points on any given night when some of your top stars are out. And Bam Adebayo has missed some time this year. Like I said, Hero missed some time as well, and Norman Powell has kind of been the de facto number 1 in Miami, and he has been worth every penny for this team in his age 32 season. It's not just Norman Powell that stepped up as well. Khalil Ware has kind of turned into one of the best rebounders in the NBA, averaging 11 rebounds in 25 minutes a night. Simone Fontecchio, Davion Mitchell, Pele Larson, these guys are knocking down their threes, giving Miami just ultimate floor spacing potential, and that's kind of been the motto in the Eastern Conference this year, just hard physical defensive ability between the Raptors, Pistons, and the Heat, and they're at the top of the Eastern Conference. And the top of the Western Conference, you are headlined by the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are on serious pace to winning 70 games this year. They're 16 games above 500, number one in defensive rating, number one in net rating, fourth in offensive rating, all without their second best offensive player in Jalen Williams. It's incredible what this team is doing this year because Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has been playing like an MVP candidate yet again. 32 points, 5 rebounds, 6.5 assists, 54, 41, 90 splits this year, and he's barely playing any fourth quarters. Shai is averaging just 33 minutes a night, which is not even top 20 in minutes in the NBA, and just 1.8 turnovers a game as well. It is unreal how good Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has been offensively this year. And right now, the Oklahoma City Thunder are looking great for this season and for future years because their core is still pretty much all under 30, and they might just have 4 first-round picks this year because they own the Jazz top 8 protected. That one's probably the least likely one that they'll get in the NBA draft, but they own Philly's top 4 protected first. They own a swap with the LA Clippers, a team that is off to an abysmal start right now. Oh yeah, and they also own the Houston Rockets first rounder as well. It is just unreal the amount of assets that this team has going forward. And if this team gets the number 1, 2, or 3 pick from the LA Clippers, I mean, the league as we know it may be over. And it's a shame too because some of the other teams at the top of the Western Conference would probably be the front runners to win the Eastern Conference right now. The LA Lakers are off to a 13-4 start. Now, their strength of schedule hasn't been as high as some of the other teams they played in, but when you look at it right now, they may not lose another game until Christmas. Luka Doncic is going to be in that MVP conversation, averaging 35 points per game, leading the NBA in scoring. Scoring has never looked easier for Luka Doncic than right now. Austin Reeves is maybe putting up the quietest 28 point per game season this year. They recently got back LeBron James from sciatica, and he's fit into this team seamlessly, making amazing plays, running extremely well in transition. For somebody that is 40 years old, I just watched Chris Paul at 40 kind of struggle to finish that game against the Lakers, while LeBron looks like he's 31 out there. And the Lakers have plenty of flexibility to make a trade at one point this year as well. They could definitely make it to the conference finals. I don't think they're beating OKC. I'm not even sure if they're going to beat one of the other 2 teams I'm going to talk about here at the top, but you have to be very happy if you're a Lakers fan right now. And then the other 2 teams I still like a little bit more than the Lakers, one of them being the Denver Nuggets. They're off to a 13-4 start. They're number 3 in the NBA in terms of net rating. They are the best offensive team in the NBA this year because they have another MVP candidate on their team in Nikola Jokic, who is averaging 29.5 points, 13 rebounds, and oh yeah, just leading the NBA in assists as basically a 7-foot center, 11.1 a night. Jamal Murray's having an all-star caliber season. They're getting really good play out of Aaron Gordon and Tim Hardaway Jr. Their big offseason acquisition in Cam Johnson has probably been one of the more disappointing offseason acquisitions so far. So hey, if this team is going to look this good with Cam Johnson playing this bad, they could definitely make it to the conference finals. They're maybe the most competitive team against the OKC Thunder on paper going into the playoffs. They would definitely win the East if Denver was somehow in New York. And then the Houston Rockets, I think, are also in that tier 2 teams in the Western Conference. They're second in net rating, they're second in offensive rating, and they're 9th in defensive rating. They also have plenty of flexibility to make a move this year if they want, because they're this good with basically Fred VanVleet making $25 million, giving them 0 production this season. So they have a $25 million tradable contract with a plethora of appealing draft capital from the Phoenix Suns and Brooklyn Nets. Kevin Durant has not taken a step back this year. Alperen Şengün looks like a legitimate number 2 to Kevin Durant, and Amen Thompson is still this do-it-all freak going into the 3rd year of his contract. But what I loved is the other 3 young guys, Jabari Smith Jr., Reed Shepherd, and Tari Eason, all being really good 3-point shooters this year. And the Rockets currently ranked 1st in 3-point shooting this year, something not a lot of people expected going into the year. Dorian Finney-Smith hasn't even played for this team yet either. And yeah, if they were also in the Eastern Conference, I would take them to make it out of that. But then you get kind of to the tank off in the NBA, right? We are seeing maybe a generational tank off. So many different teams are just maybe saying 2026 is not our year. You have the 2-15 Washington Wizards, the 2-15 Indiana Pacers, the 3-14 Brooklyn Nets, and the 4-13 Charlotte Hornets, all at the bottom of the Eastern Conference. We kind of knew that Washington and Brooklyn was going to be really bad this year, but I didn't expect them to be this bad this year. They've had so many different injuries, and the Charlotte Hornets, another team that has had a plethora of injuries this year to Brandon Miller, LaMelo Ball. They still haven't had Grant Williams or Josh Green play for them yet. And Charlotte, Brooklyn, and Washington have kind of been at the bottom of the Eastern Conference over the last few years. Detroit has graduated from this tier, and they've welcomed Indiana this year. And in the Western Conference, you have the 5-12 Jazz, the 5-13 Kings, the 5-13 Clippers, the 5-14 Mavericks, and the 3-15 Pelicans. Now, in the East, those bottom feeders all own their first round picks this year. But in the West, the Clippers don't own their first rounder. That is going to the OKC Thunder, and the Pelicans, who are 3-15 this year, also don't own their first round pick. We know that is going to the Atlanta Hawks from the Derek Queen trade. And we know that there's a three-headed race at the top of the 2026 draft right now in Karen Boozer of Duke, Darren Peterson of Kansas, and AJ DeBance at BYU. So we may see some like really bad records this year. Like I'm talking multiple teams losing 60 plus games. And then that kind of gets into my desperate team category as well that I'm noticing this year. Like I do wonder going into the trade deadline, will we see a team like Golden State, who's off to kind of like a 500 start this year? They have that $22 million contract in Jonathan Kuminga, who becomes trade eligible in January. Like, are they going to use that right away and look to make a move to shake up this team? Because they've pretty much been a below average offensive team, but an above average defensive team so far. They have had a brutal schedule to start off the year, though. So many back-to-back, so many cross-country flights. And we know that they have this window with Draymond Green, Jimmy Butler, and Steph Curry. They own basically all their draft picks going forward. I wouldn't be surprised if they use those on the table. Definitely Jonathan Kuminga's $20 million contract. Maybe Brandon Podziemski, maybe even Moses Moody would be in a trade as well. I just wonder how big they go in a splash at the deadline. And then if you're talking about desperate teams, I mean, the LA Clippers have to be here. They have one of the oldest rosters in the NBA, actually the oldest roster in the NBA. Bradley Beal's out for the year. Chris Paul hasn't been great this year. He's retiring at the end of the year. James Harden has had to put this team on his back because Kawhi Leonard has missed games yet again. I'm not even sure if Ty Lue is going to be coaching this team after the All-Star break. They do host the All-Star game this year, ironically. They still have the aspiration situation looming over them right now, and they've had to play like second-round picks like Kobe Sanders, Kobe Brown from a couple years ago as well, because the team is just absolutely depleted. Now, they do have appealing expiring contracts like Bogdan Bogdanovic at $16 million, John Collins at $26 million. Brook Lopez isn't a typical expiring, but it's still $8.7 million. They could look to include Bradley Beal's contract in a trade as well. Would they go for one of the bigger names on the market? I don't know if it'd be a Ja Morant. Would it be a Zach LaVine? Would it be somebody like that? And yeah, I also think the Pelicans and the Bucks could be in that desperate category as well. And for the Bucks, you want to keep Giannis happy, right? Like there's going to be the looming 2027 free agency hovering over you all year. We had plenty of rumors of Giannis maybe getting traded in the offseason, and they've been one of the worst teams in the NBA over the last 2 weeks with Giannis missing some time. So I do wonder if the Bucks would also try to make some type of move to get a better secondary shot creator. I just mentioned Zach LaVine. I think he'd be a really good fit in Milwaukee if you could somehow parlay Kyle Kuzma, Bobby Portis, Kevin Porter Jr., maybe a pick swap or something like that for Zach LaVine. Because right now with Giannis missing some time, this offense can't really get anything going, and you're putting way too much pressure on guys like Ryan Rollins and AJ Green. And then for the Pelicans, yeah, they don't own their first round pick. You can look at it at the lens like, you know what, it's a sunk cost. We don't have the first round pick anymore. We don't care where it ends up. But they're 3-15. Their star player Giannis Antetokounmpo has already missed some time this year. Jordan Poole has missed some time. DeJounte Murray might not even be back until January or February. Herb Jones is going to be out for at least a week right now. This team could make some type of move to shake up the roster. I do wonder if they would ever pull the trigger on a Zion Williamson deal, because that kind of leads everything into the trade market. I'm keeping an eye on as well starting this year. I think Zion Williamson could end up getting moved, but it's so hard to figure out his value. We know that Anthony Davis in Dallas is most likely going to get moved this year as well. Nico Harrison, the GM that traded for him, is no longer there, and they're almost 10 games under 500. They do own their first round pick in 2026, but they don't in 2027. It's a top 2 protected pick going to Charlotte from the PJ Washington trade. So they would have an incentive to be better next year. So I think they would look to maybe move Anthony Davis to somebody that could help them get win now players for the future, if that makes sense. But yeah, Anthony Davis is going to be up there in the trade market. I think the Sacramento Kings, who do own all their picks basically going forward outside one in the 2030s, could also look to be maybe the premier seller at the deadline. Malik Monk, Dennis Schroeder, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Russell Westbrook, Domantas Sabonis, 6 different guys that I think could have some type of value on the market if they were to be made available. And I do expect this new regime under Scott Perry to make almost everybody available on this roster outside of Keegan Murray and Nick Clifford. So yeah, even their lottery pick from 2024, Devin Carter as well. Some team is going to trade like a 2nd round pick for Keon Ellis, and he's going to have some meaningful moments in the playoffs. You could just tell. And then how about those point guards? Trae Young could be a free agent at the end of the year. Atlanta's playing some better basketball without him. When Trae comes back, if Atlanta dips, could they look to potentially move him at the deadline? There was that brief LaMelo Ball rumor on Twitter last week. I'm not sure if that's going to transpire into anything. I'll keep an eye on it. Ja Morant in Memphis looks checked out. He's currently hurt. He already got suspended for a game this year. Could he be moved at the deadline as well? We could see like a point guard carousel. And then Lauri Markkanen in Utah. The Jazz have been way more competitive than we thought going into the year. And Lauri Markkanen is still averaging around 30 points per game right now. He's 28 years old. Some team could definitely use Lauri Markkanen as a secondary shot creator. And for Utah, they maybe want to bottom out, have one last chance at getting a top 3 pick in the draft to land a blue chipper next to Ace Bailey and Keontae George and Walker Kessler moving forward. So if Markkanen were to be made available, he'd probably be the best player out there. And 2 final things, I think we are going to have 2 electric award races going on this year. The MVP race was insane last year between Jokic and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. We are going to see those 2 at the forefront of it this year. And Giannis, Wemby, if he doesn't miss too much time, and Luka Doncic are going to be right there as well. Now, the Bucks record isn't great right now, so they're going to have to make up some ground. But the Lakers at the top of the West with Luka having the scoring title right now. The Spurs are 11-5 at the moment. So if Wemby can still play 65 games, his numbers can look MVP worthy. But it may come down to what it was basically in 2024. Jokic at the top, Luka and Shai right behind him, because all 3 could definitely have an argument, and I'm so excited to watch this MVP race unfold throughout the rest of the season. And then I also think the Rookie of the Year race is going to be great as well. The 2025 draft class has been so much fun to watch in about their first 20 games this year. Right now, I think it's Con Knippel's award to lose. He's averaging over 19 points and has a true shooting percentage over 65%. You know how many rookies have done that in their first 17 games in NBA history? 1. It's just Con Knippel. And then I think Cooper Flagg is going to be in the conversations. Dylan Harper is about to come back. VJ Edgecombe got off to a great start, has tapered off a little bit, but could still have those Rookie of the Year numbers. Derek Queen is picking up a lot of steam as of late. Same with Ace Bailey, Cedric Coward, Jeremiah Fears. These guys have shown great potential out of the gate. I think it's going to be as entertaining as a Rookie of the Year race, basically since what we saw back in 2022 when it was Scotty Barnes versus Evan Mobley versus Cade Cunningham. So those are my biggest takeaways so far throughout the 2026 season. Let me know if there's anything that I missed down below or anything that I should have brought up. Drop a thumbs up if you guys did enjoy, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.